Are you trying to make sense of Canadian savings accounts like the TFSA, the RRSP, and the all-new FHSA? Choosing the wrong one is going to cost you thousands in taxes, and trust me, that money is better off in your pocket than that of the government. Not to mention the double whammy of, yes, more taxes, but also it's going to slow down your financial goals. So it's so important to choose the right one. And that's why in this video, I'm going to help you figure out which account you should prioritize and when, all based on your savings goals. So for example, are you saving for retirement? Are you saving for a new home? Or are you just saving cash so you have flexibility and options? We're going to go through all of that and more. So let's get right into it. Let's optimize your savings. The TFSA is a registered savings account, and as the name suggests, all your investments grow tax-free, and that's the beauty of it. And you start building up TFSA contribution room since 2009, the year you turned 18, or the year you became a Canadian resident, whichever is the most recent. The contribution room for the TFSA for 2025 is $7,000. That's a pretty decent chunk of change for most people to grow tax-free. Now, your contributions won't impact any taxes based on the year you made that contribution. The real power in the TFSA comes from when you withdraw your money. No matter how much your account has grown, that money you can access whenever you want without restrictions. And the best part is, like I mentioned, it is all tax-free. So that's why the TFSA is such a versatile savings account. You grow your money tax-free. You can withdraw from it whenever you want. Again, it's all tax-free. The next account is the RRSP, which stands for Registered Retirement Savings Plan. This is another registered savings account, just like the TFSA. Now, where the TFSA is all about tax-free, the RRSP, you do have to pay taxes, but the beauty lies in that you get to defer your taxes down the road, meaning you get to kick the can down the road, or hopefully when you're in a lower tax bracket when you start taking money out. As with a TFSA, if you don't use up your RRSP contribution room in a single year, it does accumulate. Now, where the TFSA doesn't give you a tax advantage in the year you make a contribution, the RRSP is where it differs a little bit. You actually get a tax deduction in the year you make a contribution to your RRSP. This ultimately will help lower your tax bill. And any money you put into your RRSP, it won't be taxed until you get to a point where you start withdrawing from it. And the strategy really is you put money into your RSP in the years you are at a high tax bracket. So when you start withdrawing from it, you are in a lower tax bracket. And that's where the savings benefit really kicks in. The next one is the FHSA, which is a new addition to that roster. This is another registered account. And the beauty about the FHSA, the First Home Savings Account, is that it's combined some of the benefits of the RRSP and the TFSA. For example, you can contribute up to $8,000 a year to a maximum of $40,000. And that contribution to your FHSA, it is tax deductible, meaning you get to lower your income and pay less tax for contributing to an FHSA. Now here's a little bit of a secret. You can get a double benefit. If you contribute to your RRSP and FHSA in the same year, you get a double tax benefit because one, you get to lower your tax bill by the RRSP, and then you get to further lower it by using your FHSA. Now, there is a bit of a catch when it comes to the FHSA in that the money has to be used for your first home, and that's why it's called the First Home Savings Account, so you can build up your down payment, take that money out, and use that down payment for your first home to avoid any taxes. Now, let's say you decide you don't want to use your FHSA for your first home, well, then you can transfer that balance to your RRSP on a tax-free basis, and it won't impact your RRSP contribution room. So now that you have some context on what the FHSA, the RRSP, and the TFSA is, let's talk about how to prioritize which account. And I found this really cool decision tree on Wealthsimple, and we're going to do it together. We're going to go through examples together so you can get a feel for when you need to contribute to your TFSA, RRSP, and FHSA, in what order, in what priority. So let's look at that. All right, so we have the Wealthsimple decision tree here. TFSA versus RRSP versus FHSA. We're going to answer a few basic questions, and that's going to help us determine which accounts you want to optimize. And we're going to answer a few basic questions, and that will help us figure out which account we want to prioritize. I'll leave a link for this in the description below as well, so you can follow along while you're watching this video. and you can do your own decision tree while you're watching this. So first, we're going to click on Start. Does your employer offer RRSP matching? And if you don't know what RRSP matching is, it's sometimes called an employer's match. When you start a new job, or if you are in your current job and you haven't taken advantage of this, ask your HR if there is RRSP matching. How it works is, for example, let's say you make $100,000. The program might be something like, if you put in 5% of your salary into the RRSP matching program, your employer is going to either match it or put in an X%. So for example, some employers match your contribution. So let's say if you contribute 5% off the 100K, the employer is going to contribute another 5% of your 100K salary. So effectively, you just got 10K into your RRSP. You pretty much just doubled your contribution. That's why it's such an amazing program. It is free money on the table, so you definitely want to take advantage of the RRSP matching program. So in this case, let's say your employer does, and you click on yes. So no surprise, you want to maximize that free money. It's part of your salary. Now what happens if your employer doesn't offer this RRSP matching? So it's no. And then the next question is, do you have debt? So whether you do yes or no, eventually this is the next question you have to answer, but this lets you take advantage of that free matching. So do you have debt? Well, most people I know have debt, so you'll click on this. What kind of debt is it? Well, is it high interest debt like credit cards? Let's say it is. Well, we're going to run into a stop. That means you need to use any spare cash to eliminate that high interest debt. In other words, you are not going to figure out whether it should be your FHSA, RRSP, TFSA. You're not there yet. What you want to do here, if you are in this decision tree, eliminate that high interest debt. My recommendation is figure out all the debts that you have, write them all down. Credit cards, car loans, student loans, whatever. And anything above 8% interest, meaning if your debt has more than 8% interest, you want to eliminate that first before you carry on with the FHSA, TFSA, RRSP. So eliminate that high interest debt, then come back to this. Now let's say you have low debt, like a mortgage. Well, then we're going to talk about the emergency fund. But before we get there, you'll notice that going back to the question, do you have debt? If you answer no, well, then you go straight into the emergency fund. So whether you answer yes or no, eventually you're going to come into emergency fund. So let's say you don't have an emergency fund. Well, there we have another stop. Use any spare cash to start an emergency fund. So let me explain that. So first of all, if you have debt, you're going to eliminate that first. Next, you're going to come to the emergency fund. If you don't have an emergency fund, you want to build up at least 3 to 6 months worth of your core expenses as your emergency fund. So at this stage, whether you have high interest debt and you don't have an emergency fund, you are not concerned whether you should be putting your money into your FHSA, the RRSP, or the TFSA. Again, you're not there yet. Go crush your debt, go build that emergency fund, and then let's come back to this. All right, now we can keep going. So if you have low interest debt and you have an emergency fund, we can keep going. So what are you saving for? This is where your goals come in. Let's say you're saving for a short-term purchase. Let's see where that takes us. Contribute to a TFSA. Once your TFSA is maxed out, then you start making RRSP contributions if you are saving for retirement. So that's part of your decision tree right there. Short-term savings go straight to your TFSA. It's tax-free. Investments grow on a tax-free basis. You can take money out whenever you want. You don't pay a single cent in taxes. What if you are saving for a home? Well, is this your first home? And if the answer is yes, you are saving for your first home, then you want to contribute to an FHSA. You'll save on taxes when you put the money in and when you take it out. And if you don't buy a home, you can roll that money into an RRSP. We've already talked about that, and that doesn't affect your RRSP contribution room. Once your FHSA is maxed out, then we head back into the chart. Now let's say this is not your first home. You are saving for a second home. Maybe you're saving for a cottage, a rental property. So what happens if we do no? Well, then we go straight down here, and then we're also going to contribute to a TFSA. Once that is maxed, then you're going to contribute to your RRSP. Well, retirement. What if you're saving for retirement? Well, we're also going to talk about a home. Now, this is different than your first home. Do you own a home? Yes. Then we're going to come to this in a second. But if you don't own a home, the answer is no, then go straight to your FHSA. So whether you're saving for your first home or you don't own a home, the first bucket you want to look at is the FHSA because it allows you to save for your first home on a tax-free basis, that down payment, and you have $40,000 worth of contribution room, $8,000 a year. So you definitely want to take advantage of your FHSA at this stage. Let's keep going on the chart. So do you own a home? Yes. Do you earn more than $50,000 per year? Now, there's two ways of getting here. One, do you own a home? Yes. And if you already have your first home covered and you've maxed out your FHSA, then we come back to the chart. So the next question is, in both those avenues, is do you earn more than $50,000 a year? Let's say, no, we don't earn $50,000 a year. Then we keep going. Then this path also leads to the TFSA. So you don't make 50 grand, contribute to your TFSA, and keep going, and then you'll start looking at the RRSP. Let's go back up to the chart. Do you earn more than $50,000? Now let's say you do earn more than $50,000. So we're going to go ahead and do yes. Well, do you earn more than $110,000? Well, let's say no, we don't. Well, do you think you'll earn more than $110,000 in the next 3 years? So let's say yes. Well, then you contribute to your TFSA. Hopefully, you're starting to get a sense of which roads lead to you opening up a TFSA first. And if you watch this video, the decision tree, you're still stuck, leave a comment down below. Let's start a discussion. Let's talk about it together in the comment section down below. Let's say you do earn more than $110,000. Well, when the time comes to withdraw your funds, do you expect, so this is very important, if you're earning $110,000 right now, when do you think you withdraw some of your money? Do you think your income will be higher or lower? Now, before we even talk about that, going back to the $110,000, if you're not making $110,000 now, well, do you think you'll make it there in the next 3 years? And the answer is no. Then we still get to this bucket. So either you're making $110K now, we're going to talk about this, or you don't think you're going to be making $110K in the next 3 years at all. Let's talk about that. So do you think your income is going to be lower than it is today or higher? If you think your income is going to be higher, then contribute to your TFSA. So you can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different ways. If you follow this decision tree on, you should be investing your TFSA first. But what if it's going to be lower? Where does that go? Well, there you go. Then you contribute to your RRSP. And the beauty about the RRSP is that you'll save money on taxes now and pay lower taxes later on. So hopefully you found that helpful. We talked about which roads lead down a TFSA, which roads lead down the FHSA, and then ultimately, once you sort of sort those two out, the FHSA, the TFSA, then you get to the RRSP. So to recap, you should definitely be prioritizing your TFSA if you want easy access to your money whenever you want without restrictions. Go for your TFSA. If you are saving for a short-term goal like big vacation, a new car, something in that near-term future, or even an emergency, then for sure prioritize your TFSA. The other time you should prioritize your TFSA is if you are in a lower income bracket and you don't see your income growing, then the RRSP honestly is not going to help you that much. It only makes a big difference if you are in a high bracket today, high tax bracket today, and are going to be in a much lower tax bracket tomorrow. If you're not in that situation, then again, stick with your TFSA. Or lastly, if you just want to grow your investments tax-free, you don't want to pay a single cent in taxes, neither today, neither tomorrow, everything tax-free, then obviously prioritize your TFSA. Now, when should you prioritize your RRSP? Well, if you are in a higher income tax bracket and you want to take advantage of some benefits that Canada has to offer on a lower income level, such as the Canada Child Benefit, the CCB, or the GST HST credit, as I mentioned earlier in the video, making a contribution to your RRSP actually lowers your income. That lowers your tax bill. So by lowering your income, you might actually qualify more for CCB or for that GST HST credit. And the FHSA, if you are saving for your first home, then 100% you want to maximize that FHSA first. It's the best way to save for your down payment on a tax-free basis. Now, let's say you are one of the very lucky few who's very financially ahead and you've maxed out your TFSA, you've maxed out your RRSP, you've maxed out your TFS, you've maxed out all three of those registered savings account. Well, first of all, congratulations. You are definitely in the 1 or 2% of Canadians out there by maximizing those accounts. In this situation, if you've maxed all three, then you're going to open up a non-registered account. Now, when it comes to the non-registered account, I'm going to give you a bit of a tip here. What type of assets should you put into your non-registered account? Because you don't want to just dump every single thing in this non-registered account because you actually have to pay tax on this account. So to minimize taxes, avoid interest income, which is taxed at the highest rate, I'm going to tell you which are ideal assets to put inside your non-registered account. So first, you're going to invest in growth stocks with no dividends. This is stocks like Shopify, Nvidia, Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway. These are ideal for non-registered accounts because they don't pay any dividends and they are growing for the long haul. And capital gains actually has one of the lowest tax rates in Canada. And you only pay tax when you sell those stocks. So you have a bit of control over on how much tax you're going to pay and when you're going to pay because you can time your sell based on how well you've done in the stock market. So growth stocks, I would definitely put inside a non-registered account. So the second piece you want to consider for your non-registered account are dividend stocks. Now, my fellow dividend investors, yield investors, dividend growth investors, this is for you. Your non-registered account is going to be your best friend when it comes to Canadian dividend stocks because you can take advantage of the Canadian dividend tax credit. This is why so many people love investing in Canadian dividends because it is one of the best ways to pay very little taxes. I've actually done a whole video on this where you can watch how much tax would you have to pay if you made 50,000 dividend income. What if you paid 100K in dividend income? I think the answer is like 5% or something like that. So definitely watch that video if you're interested in like paying no tax on like 100K worth of income. The second best thing to put inside your non-registered account is our Canadian dividend stocks or Canadian dividend paying ETFs, whichever. So once you figure out how to take advantage of the Canadian dividend tax credit, you're going to save a boatload of taxes and maybe pay even little to no tax based on how you strategically optimize your account. And it's again where maybe a financial advisor can help you do some scenario modeling to figure out how to pay the least amount of taxes. If you've really found this video helpful, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, because that lets me know you want to see more content just like this. So let me know what stage you're at. Which part of the decision tree are you at? Are you at the debt elimination stage? Are you at the emergency fund stage? Let's start a discussion in the comments down below. Make sure to check out all the links in the description down below as well. I have some amazing resources for you to check out. That's it for now. I'll talk to you in the next one.